Hello, welcome to Don't Pull the Chicken Switch 1.5 Minute Nugget. I'm your host, Kit Holowitz, checking in today from my home office here in beautiful Utah. Today's 1.5 Minute Nugget is of particular interest to me, and I would submit to you absolutely critical in terms of components, ingredients needed for not pulling the chicken switch. The name of the nugget is suffering. So my first question to you is suffering bad? And I unequivocally would like to submit to you that it is not bad, that suffering is required in terms of us reaching our full potential and our goals and desired outcomes. And I'm talking about the nature of suffering specifically related to achieving something that we want. And so in terms of layman's terms, I'm going to describe suffering in terms of just three words. And those are pain, distress, and hardship. An example of this would be, even though I don't particularly care for this gentleman's music, my wife does, Ed Sheeran. Fantastic, amazing story about the nature of suffering that he had to go through and overcoming all sorts of obstacles to achieve where he's gotten to in his life. So pretty interesting. Suffering is required. I want to submit to you that those who want it simply are willing to suffer in order to get whatever it is they want. And life, history is full of amazing, absolutely incredible stories of men and women who they typically have just a very common theme, which is they were willing to embrace suffering to get there. And I just have a handful to share with you today. One is Alberto Salazar. He was at one time held the world record for the marathon, had just a storied career at Nike and at the University of Oregon. Prefontaine, who I'm actually wearing his shirt today, amazing example of someone willing to suffer, willing to embrace suffering to get there. Other names like Michael Phelps, Lance Armstrong, Oprah Winfrey, George Washington, Phil Knight, founder of Nike, Mary Decker Slaney, another famous runner from Oregon. How about my parents, my mom, in terms of willing to embrace the suffering that's required to get to a desired outcome. And then I also have a recent friend who was willing to go through the suffering required to get onto TED Talks and then to be able to practice, and then deliver an amazing speech. So I'd like you to consider that suffering is a key ingredient needed in the formula for us to get what we want. And the moment we think that we're suffering is not bad. In fact, if you're into any of the Eastern philosophy sort of ideologies, they describe suffering literally as the point where we choose to see the world. We want things to be different than they are, and that actually is self-imposed suffering. Just because I get a flat tire doesn't mean that my life is bad or that I'm suffering. It just means that I got a flat tire. So often when we think we're suffering, it can oftentimes be self-imposed. And yet, even if it's not, we need suffering in terms of distress, pain, and hardship to get us to the far side of what it is we want to achieve. In terms of pulling the chicken switch, there is no way that you're not going to come up against suffering in the pursuit of something that you want. And I'm challenging you to consider that those are required, it's necessary, and it's actually wise. It's a good thing. So that's my challenge to you. I hope you have a great day. We'll see you next time.